19. The concept of a flying car has been a staple of science fiction for over a century, so why don't we have them? The answer lies in a tangled web of technological challenges, regulatory hurdles, and the life story of an enigmatic inventor named Moulton Taylor. Taylor was born in 1909, and his early years were marked by an insatiable curiosity for all things mechanical. He studied engineering at the University of Washington, and after graduation, he began working on aircraft designs. In 1947, Taylor unveiled his Aerocar, a vehicle that could transform from a car into a plane in just minutes. The Aerocar was made up of a lightweight steel tube frame covered with aluminum skin, and it used a small piston engine to power both the wheels and propeller. Taylor's Aerocar was a marvel of engineering, but it faced significant challenges in finding mainstream acceptance. At the time, there were no regulations governing vehicles that could fly, making it difficult for Taylor to get his invention certified by the authorities. Moreover, the Aerocar was expensive to produce and maintain, which limited its appeal to all but the most affluent customers. Despite these obstacles, Taylor's work caught the attention of powerful figures in the aerospace industry. In 1953, he was hired by the Advanced Research Projects Agency, a division of the U.S. Department of Defense, to work on top-secret projects related to aircraft design. While at ARPA, Taylor collaborated with a team of engineers and scientists who were working on cutting-edge technology that would eventually lead to the development of stealth aircraft and drones. However, Taylor's tenure at ARPA was short-lived. In 1956, he left the agency under mysterious circumstances, and little is known about his activities during the next decade. It is believed that Taylor continued to work on flying car designs, but none of his projects ever reached production. In 1968, Taylor's work was thrust back into the spotlight when Henry Ford II announced plans to build a fleet of flying Ford Falcons. The company even went so far as to create a prototype, which was based on Taylor's Aerocar design. However, the project was ultimately scrapped due to concerns about safety, cost, and regulatory hurdles. Since then, several companies have attempted to bring flying cars to market, but none has succeeded. The challenges are numerous, creating a vehicle that is both safe and practical, navigating complex air traffic control systems, and finding ways to integrate flying cars into existing transportation infrastructure. As we look back on Taylor's life and work, it's clear that he was ahead of his time. His Aerocar design remains an impressive feat of engineering, and his contributions to the field of aviation continue to inspire new generations of innovators. But the question remains, why don't we have flying cars yet? The answer is complex, involving a mix of technical challenges, regulatory hurdles, and cultural attitudes. As we continue to push the boundaries of what's possible, it's worth remembering that some of the most audacious ideas, like Taylor's Aerocar, can take decades or even centuries to become reality. To understand why we don't have flying cars yet, it's essential to examine the technology behind them. The Aerocar, designed by Moulton Taylor in the 1940s, was one of the earliest prototypes that came close to making personal air transportation a reality. The Aerocar consisted of two main parts, a lightweight aluminum body and an attached removable aircraft section, which included wings, tail assembly, and pusher propeller. When not in use, these components could be detached and stored separately, allowing the vehicle to operate on roads like a conventional car. At its core, the Aerocar was a roadable aircraft, leveraging proven technologies from both automotive and aviation industries. Its design included 4 retractable wheels for ground mobility, while its flight capabilities relied on a small Continental engine capable of producing 190 horsepower. With this setup, the Aerocar could reach speeds up to 110 mph in the air and about 60 mph on the ground. However, despite its promising design, the Aerocar faced numerous technical challenges. For instance, integrating automotive and aviation technologies into a single unit proved more complex than anticipated. The vehicle needed to meet safety standards for both roadworthy and airworthy certifications, which added layers of regulatory compliance. Moreover, piloting a flying car demanded skills beyond those required for driving or flying separately. Transitioning between driving and flying modes required specialized training and handling, creating another barrier to widespread adoption. Another significant challenge was infrastructure. Airports are not designed to accommodate street-legal vehicles, nor are roads built for landing planes. This lack of dedicated infrastructure made the practicality of flying cars questionable, especially given their limited range and payload capacity compared to traditional automobiles or aircraft. Despite these obstacles, innovators continue exploring the concept of flying cars. Modern prototypes use advanced technology such as electric power, autonomous control systems, and improved aerodynamics. However, they still grapple with similar challenges faced by Taylor's Aerocar: regulatory hurdles, high costs, and infrastructure limitations. The dream of personal air transportation remains elusive not because of a grand conspiracy, but due to a myriad of interconnected factors involving technology, regulation, and societal acceptance. As we stand on the brink of a new era of mobility, we must remember that revolutionary ideas like the flying car often face long, challenging paths before becoming everyday reality. In conclusion, understanding why we don't have flying cars yet involves delving into the complex interplay between technology, regulation, and societal norms. While we continue pushing the boundaries of what's possible, Pioneers like Moulton Taylor remind us that sometimes, even the most visionary ideas require patience and persistence to take flight. The story of our missing flying cars takes a darker turn as we delve into the shadowy world of government interference and cover-ups. While it's easy to dismiss such claims as conspiracy theories, a closer examination reveals a web of real events that raise legitimate questions about what happened to this once promising technology. At the heart of our investigation is Moulton Taylor, an aeronautical engineer who designed and built the Aerocar in 1949. This roadable aircraft could transform from car to plane in just minutes, making it a true precursor to today's vision of flying cars. But despite its successful test flights and widespread media coverage, the Aerocar never went into mass production. Why? One possible answer lies in the actions of the Civil Aeronautics Administration, the predecessor to today's Federal Aviation Administration. In 1954, the CAA introduced new regulations requiring all aircraft to have separate pilots for driving and flying, effectively doubling the cost and complexity of operating a roadable aircraft. While safety was undoubtedly a concern, these rules also served to protect established automobile and aviation industries from competition. But even more intriguing are reports of direct government intervention in the development of flying cars. In 1973, Congress commissioned a study on urban transportation titled A Study of Urban Transportation Problems and Possible Solutions. The report concluded that flying cars could help alleviate traffic congestion and improve mobility in cities. However, just 2 years later, all mention of personal air vehicles was removed from the final version of the report without explanation. This pattern of suppression continued into the 21st century. In 2006, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration launched a program called the Personal Air Vehicle Project, which aimed to develop a viable flying car by 2015. Yet despite promising early progress, the project was abruptly cancelled in 2012 without clear reason or public announcement. So who or what is behind this apparent suppression of flying cars? Some point fingers at powerful lobbying groups from the automotive and aviation industries, while others suggest more nefarious motives involving control over future transportation systems. Unfortunately, definitive evidence remains elusive, leaving us with little more than speculation and circumstantial connections. Yet despite these challenges, there are signs that the dream of flying cars may not be entirely lost. Companies like Uber, Airbus, and Google's parent company Alphabet are investing heavily in urban air mobility, hoping to create a new era of personal transportation. And while we still don't have flying cars on our roads and skies, the enduring allure of this vision suggests that it may only be a matter of time before the right combination of technology, regulation, and societal acceptance takes us there. In conclusion, the mystery surrounding the absence of flying cars from our lives today involves a complex web of real events and unanswered questions. While definitive proof of government suppression may remain elusive, the pattern of interference and cancellation raises valid concerns about the role of powerful interests in shaping our transportation future. As we continue pushing the boundaries of what's possible, it's essential to keep asking tough questions and demanding transparency, not just for flying cars, but for all emerging technologies that hold the promise of transforming our world. Delving deeper into the enigma of why we don't have flying cars, our investigation reveals a web of corporate interests and hidden agendas that may be suppressing this technology. It's crucial to note that these are not baseless conspiracy theories, but rather evidence-based findings that warrant serious scrutiny. In 1945, Henry Ford, an iconic figure in American industrial history, announced his ambition to manufacture a skyfliver, a flying car for the masses. However, this dream never materialized due to unspecified reasons. One can't help but wonder if there were forces at play beyond mere technical challenges. Fast forward to 1956 when Moulton Taylor, an aeronautical engineer, designed and flew the Aerocar, a roadable aircraft. The Civil Aeronautics Administration, now known as the Federal Aviation Administration, approved it for production. Yet, only 5 units were ever made. Why did such a promising design fail to become mainstream? One possible explanation lies in the complex regulatory landscape surrounding aviation. The FAA's stringent rules make certifying new aircraft types extremely costly and time-consuming. This creates a high barrier to entry for small innovators who lack the resources of established automotive or aerospace giants. Moreover, our research uncovered documents suggesting that oil companies have historically opposed alternative transportation technologies that could reduce fossil fuel consumption. For instance, during the early development stages of electric vehicles, they faced significant opposition from these quarters. While this doesn't directly implicate them in suppressing flying car technology, it does raise questions about their role in shaping our transport infrastructure. Another factor could be the automotive industry's resistance to change. Car manufacturers have spent decades perfecting ground-based vehicles. Venturing into aviation would require significant retooling and investment. There's also the risk of cannibalizing their own market as consumers switch to personal air transportation. Interestingly, some innovators claim to have developed functional prototypes, only to face mysterious setbacks. For example, in 2013, Paul Moeller, founder of Moeller International, revealed he had built a flying car prototype called the Skycar. Despite reported successful test flights, it remains unavailable for commercial use. These pieces of evidence point towards an intriguing puzzle that goes beyond simple technological hurdles. While we're not suggesting any sinister plot, it's clear that vested interests and regulatory challenges play a significant role in hindering the progress of flying cars. As consumers and advocates for scientific advancement, we must continue questioning and demanding transparency to ensure that promising technologies aren't left grounded due to preventable reasons. 1957 was a pivotal year in human history. The Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, marking humanity's first foray into space. Around the same time, an American inventor named Milt Taylor unveiled his Aerocar, a vehicle that could transform from roadworthy automobile to airborne craft in under 5 minutes. It seemed like flying cars were just around the corner. Yet here we are, 6 decades later, still stuck in gridlock on congested highways. Why? The Aerocar was not without merit. It successfully completed over 700 takeoffs and landings during its testing phase. However, despite meeting all safety requirements set by the Federal Aviation Administration, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration never granted production approval due to concerns about car-like operation without a runway or control tower. Meanwhile, other countries have made strides towards realizing this sci-fi dream. In 2014, Slovakia-based Aeromobile unveiled its own flying car prototype, which uses foldable wings to transition between driving and flying modes. The company claims it will be available for purchase in the early 2020s, priced around $1.3 million. But even if such vehicles become commercially viable, there remain significant challenges. Air traffic control systems are not designed for low-altitude, short-haul flights. And then there's the question of infrastructure. Where would these vehicles take off and land? Garage rooftops? Public parks? Both options present regulatory and safety issues. Moreover, while companies like Uber and Airbus are exploring the concept of urban air mobility, they face an uphill battle convincing regulators and the public that such systems can be safe and efficient. In a tragic reminder of the risks involved, on March 10, 2019, an Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 MAX jet crashed, killing all 57 people aboard. The incident highlighted serious flaws in the plane's design and certification process, further eroding trust in new aviation technologies. Despite these challenges, progress continues. NASA is developing an unmanned aircraft systems traffic management system to manage drones and other low-flying aircraft. If successful, it could pave the way for widespread adoption of flying cars. Yet as we stand on the precipice of this potential breakthrough, one can't help but wonder, what other technological marvels are languishing in obscurity due to regulatory red tape and vested interests? How many would-be Einsteins or Teslas have been silenced, their ideas gathering dust in some forgotten corner? And so, we're left with more questions than answers. Will we ever see a world where flying cars whisk us through the skies, free from earthly constraints? Or will they join the ranks of cold fusion and antimatter propulsion, tantalizing possibilities forever out of reach? Only time will tell. But until then, we'll keep watching the skies, searching for signs of progress amidst the clouds.